raspberry custard pie. My grandma made the best raspberry custard pie. In fact, depending upon the season of the year, she made custard pies with whatever fresh fruit that was in season. So she made peach custard pie, blackberry custard pie, and lots of other fruits. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, we didn't have ordinary pumpkin pie. We had pumpkin custard pie. In the 1960s, someone had given Grandma a copy of the Betty Crocker cookbook. Now, for those of you under the age of 30, I know this sounds archaic, but back then, you had to buy books to get recipes. There were no apps on the Food Channel. There were no web pages. Blue Apron didn't send food to your home with instructions on how to cook it. You bought the Betty Crocker cookbook and you read it. And that one from the early 60s was not actually a book with a regular book binding. It was a 5-ring metal binder inside. Show of hands, any of you have that copy? Wow, that many, great. You could open up the rings, take out a page, and then you put it back in, covered with flour and sugar and egg white and whatnot. And in one of those pages in that book, I think it was called A Simple Custard Pie. Now, Grandma already knew how to make the perfect crust from scratch. The secret is, anyone? Butter. Lots and lots of butter. Grandma would mix all those liquid ingredients for the simple custard filling. And it's not solid at this point. It was like thick milk that she then poured into the pie crust. And then she would carry it so carefully into the hot oven and slowly put it into the oven, trying not to let any of the custard filling spill over onto the hot oven. Now, every once in a while, she did bump the pie pan, and half of the liquid would go onto the bottom of the hot oven. And then she would have to go to confession later on that day because of her language. And when the season was right, she would put the fresh fruit into the custard just as it went into the oven and started to cook, resulting in a pie that cannot be matched. Perfect crust, full of cholesterol. Thank you, Jesus. And the sweet custard cooked just right, with the raspberries floating on top in that tart flavor, contrasting nicely with the sweet custard. Isn't it? Makes me hungry right now. Not even Whole Foods or Nuggets can match Grandma's pie. Nobody can match my grandma's pie. Well, actually, that's not quite true. Grandma taught my mom how to make it before she died. So now when I go home to see my parents, we might be having dinner at the house, and without any fanfare, Mom will bring out a slice of raspberry custard pie in front of me for dessert. And I take one bite, and I taste Grandma's love. Do you know what I mean? It's like Grandma's right there. It's like the pie makes her present. And the silence that happens when Mom and I both have pie in our mouths is as if Grandma is sitting at the table with us. What food does that for you? What food can make someone you love who has died present again? That's not a rhetorical question. I'd like to hear from you, so please. Anyone? Don't be shy. Yes.
Mama Grant's cake.
What cake?
Mama Grant's cake.
What cake? What cake was it?
It's a spice applesauce cake.
Spice applesauce cake. Grandma's. Very good. Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else? Yes.
It's a bottle.
A what?
It's a Filipino dish made with meat and it's a stew.
A stew. Uh-huh.
Estofado.
Estopado. And who does it remind you of?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother. Very good. Anyone on this side? Yes.
Refrigerator cake.
Refrigerator cake?
Made with chocolate wafers and whipped cream.
Oh, yes.
My mother made it all the time, but she got the recipe from my husband, her husband.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you, Audley. Anyone else? Yes.
Maple sugar pie.
Maple sugar pie. Mmm. Wonderful. And who does that remind you of? Grandma. Okay. On this side, how about this side? Yes.
I grew up in an Italian home and watched my grandmother make homemade pastas and cookies all the time,
Okay. Grandma.
all from scratch.
Okay. And then gentleman behind you?
Yeah, grandma's French fries.
French fries. French fries.
French fries.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Easter cookies. Very good. Anyone else? What about drinks? Any drinks? Yesterday we had someone said brandy and Coke, which they call the Eleanor. Anyone else? Any drinks? Somebody over there? Somebody want to put their hand up? No? Yes, one more. Okay. Gin? Gin fizzies? Sounds good. Isn't it amazing what food can do? There are certain foods that if we tasted them right now, they have the power to bring a loved one right into this moment. Maybe it's a food that a mother or father or grandparents made. And I think you understand when I say it this way. Maybe there's a food that you would pay anything for you to taste again, because that would mean that the person who made it was here again. There are foods that carry memory and presence. When we eat a certain food, especially when we share that food with someone we love on special occasions, food and drink have the ability to carry people's memories and make them present again in some sense. Jesus understood that because Jesus understands us better than anybody else. That's why on the night before he died, he didn't have a committee meeting. Instead, he had supper with his friends. Jesus knew that the next day, Good Friday, he had to leave. He had to return to heaven to be with God the Father. He had to go, but he wanted to stay with us, the people that he loved. And so he gave us a command: eat my food, drink my drink, tell my story around the table. And when you do that, I will be there. I will be there with you. I will be there for you. I will be there to help you. When you eat my meal, I will be there. The two disciples of Jesus in today's gospel reading experienced that same gift. The gospel tells us that Cleopas and the other disciple were walking away from Jerusalem. They are walking towards a town called Emmaus, which is probably their hometown. Luke says that these two had hope. They had hope that Jesus would be the Messiah that the Jewish people were expecting. But he wasn't what they were expecting, for he had died on the cross, and they had put him in the tomb. Things did not turn out as they had hoped. Maybe these two disciples had decided that the adventure was over, and they start to walk away from Jerusalem where all these things took place, to walk home to Emmaus. And Luke says that they were downcast, that they were sad. Isn't that what happens to us when our hopes are not fulfilled? But as they walked from Jerusalem to Emmaus, someone they didn't recognize came along. And that person started to walk with them and talk with them. And that stranger reminded them of what Jesus had said, of what Jesus had taught, and how all that related to all the prophets had spoken. And then at supper time, the stranger was invited into the table, and he did what Jesus did at the Last Supper. Luke says that he took the bread, that he blessed it, that he broke it, that he gave it to them. He gave them his food, his drink, the food that he has held in his hands at the Last Supper, the broken bread. And that's when they realize he is here. He is here. Jesus is here. This is not a stranger at the table. It's Jesus who is here. And they knew of his presence because of the food and the drink that he gave us. In that food, at that table, on that night, the disciples understood that Jesus hasn't left us. In fact, he has never left us. He is right here. As we gather around this table and tell his story and share his food, the meal that he has given us, he's always here. When we don't know where else to find him in life, he is here in what Luke says is the breaking of the bread. And we don't know who will give us strength to face life's struggles. He is here in the breaking of the bread. And when we don't know who will give us hope when we are sad, he is here in the breaking of the bread. When we don't know who is going to teach us how to love, how to forgive, how to pray, he is here in the breaking of the bread. When we don't know who to turn to when a loved one dies, when a friend hurts us, when doing the right thing is a tough thing, he is here in the breaking of the bread. When we don't know who is going to teach us how to make a difference in our world, how to do what is just, how to make the lives of other people better, he is here in the breaking of the bread. When we don't know how to make sense of our confusing world, when we don't know how to respond when the people around us are so angry and divisive, he is here in the breaking of the bread. For 2,000 years, we Catholics have had an amazing experience, an amazing encounter with Christ himself because of food. He said, "Do this in memory of me." And the Eucharist is that special food, the food with which he has nourished every generation of Catholics since the resurrection. And the Eucharist teaches us to be grateful for every meal, for every morsel that we eat, for every piece of bread, for every slice of pie that God in his goodness sets before us and asks us to share with others. Friends, being Catholic isn't easy, but there's one thing that's crystal clear. We always know where to find Jesus, right here in the breaking of the bread.